Some leaders leave footprints, others leave libraries. You're tuning into the Authors on Mission podcast, where industry giants become literacy legends. In every episode, we talk with authors who turn their brilliance into books that transform lives. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authors on Mission. Welcome to your authorship experience. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Authors on Mission. So imagine, if you will, a world where ancient texts hold the power to break curses, where gifted scribes unlock forgotten languages, and where love is truly the most powerful magic of all. But here's the thing, that world isn't just fantasy, it's being brought to life right now by writers who understand that the real magic happens when storytellers dare to reimagine the tales we thought we knew. On today's episode of Authors on Mission, we're going to be chatting with Michelle Miles, a Texas-born fantasy author who's currently weaving her 6th magical tale in her Enchanted Realms series. We're going to chat all about Michelle, her writing process, and of course, some wonderful writing tips today. So grab your favorite reading wine, settle in, and discover what happens when entrepreneurial spirit meets enchanted storytelling. Without further ado, Michelle, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Of course, I'm really excited to chat with you too. I mean, as a big fan of fantasy and all the classic stories as well, I think it's really cool what you've done here and kind of reimagine the story.
Yeah, thanks. It was a really a lot of fun to write. I had a blast.
Yeah, of course. Well, I guess we should probably chat a little bit about how this all came to be. I mean, I mentioned before that you're a Texas girl through and through. So would you say that your Southern roots kind of influenced your storytelling in any way?
Probably not. I I grew up in Texas. I live in Texas. But I've always been really fascinated by fantasy stories. I mean, I grew up on, Star Wars, Star Trek, Indiana Jones. So I really love stories of sort of high adventure and fantasy. I love Lord of the Rings. I was a huge Game of Thrones nerd, all of that. So I had written a really dark and gritty urban fantasy series that took about 10 years of my life, which was great. I loved writing the series. It was all about a quest, but I really wanted to do something different and light and fun and sweet. And I had been thinking about fairy tales for a long, long time. And so I finally finished that series. I put it to bed, and then I decided last year, this is it. I'm doing it. I'm writing my fairy tales. And so that's how that Enchanted Realms was born. And the first book was released last July. So and then all of the stories just like kept coming to me, and I couldn't stop thinking about them. And so now I'm on my 5th or 6th book. Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. And first off, I just wanted to back up a little bit and say, well, you're a big fan of fantasy, and
Yeah.
if you're listening right now with the video on, you can see right behind Michelle, she has all the posters lined up right there. So I could have probably guessed that one.
Yeah. I rotate them. So like I have about a 6 or 7 that I just kind of rotate out whenever I feel like I'm in my Star Wars phase right now. I've just finished Andor. So yeah.
That's awesome, though. I love it. And, I'm a fan as well. I've only seen a few of those, so maybe not as super fan as you, but that's inspires you and gets you going with the all the writing process. But I think, did I hear you correctly that you wrote the first book last July, and now this is the 6th one coming out a year later?
Yeah, so I took some time to write back to back, and so I really wanted to rapid release the first 3 books in the series. So I spent probably 6 or 8 months just writing nonstop back to back books. So I'd finish one, I'd start the next one. So book 1 in the series released last July. It's Cinderella, followed by Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, because I really wanted to pick like the most popular ones that people are so most familiar with to start the series with. And turns out Beauty and the Beast is probably one of the most popular that people are just loving. So
Yeah, definitely. Like really cool. And that's kind of the one we're going to be chatting about a little bit today, Once Upon an Enchanted Castle. But before we dive into that one, I'd like to learn just a little bit more about you. For example, you did mention that you're very inspired by castles and to current
Yes.
and that you're interested in Scotland. So that's really cool. Have you visited there before?
Yes, my husband and I went last September and it was a whirlwind. We called it Castlemania because I was like, I may never get back here again. So I'm getting as many castles in as I possibly can. So it was 8 castles in 10 days. But yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. There were moments where I would stand in the middle of this incredibly historic place and think, I can't believe I'm here. So we saw Stirling, we saw, I know I'm going to butcher the names of these, Eileen Doonan, we saw Dunatar, we saw Edinburgh, we went Urquhart, Dunvegan, and it was just amazing. I loved it. I've always had a thing for castles, but to be actually standing there in them, it was like starstruck. It was magic.
Oh, I love that though. And I can just hear the passion in your voice at how
Yeah.
it must have been. I mean, I can only imagine, especially because you're writing books,
Yeah.
kind of are set in castles and
Mm.
have a fantasy element to it. So it's great that you went there, and I'm sure maybe you picked up on some things you noticed by being in the actual castle that you might not have known before that maybe inspired your writing. Is that true, perhaps?
Oh yes, absolutely. At the time, I was writing a series, a time travel series for a publisher that those will be coming out later this year. And so it was set in the Highlands on the Isle of Skye. And when I was there and touring all of these castles and looking at everything and reading the history, I had a lot of aha moments where I went, oh, I wrote that wrong. I've got to go fix that. So yeah, it was a very inspirational trip, and it helps me translate not only for those time travel books that I wrote, but for these fairy tales that I'm working on.
It's awesome. Yeah, well, really cool stuff. I mean, I also know what it's like to go to a location and, be inspired by it. I kind of traveled around a bunch last year too, so definitely on the same ballpark. And if you're listening today and you hear this, I mean, you don't necessarily have to travel to Scotland to, get inspiration. You can always just go to like your local park, just walk around a little bit, see what's
Yep.
going on. Always an amazing tip. So yeah, I mean, segueing now into Once Upon a Castle, first off, do you have a copy of the book with you today?
I do. I should have been prepared. This is it. It is in paperback and ebook right now. I'm working on the audio files. It was a really fun book to write. So yeah, I was excited to get it out.
That's amazing. And it's a beautiful cover also. That image, did you create it yourself or was it an artist that you collaborated with?
Yeah, I have an amazing cover artist. She's done every single one of my covers, and she really gets me. So I've worked with her for years and years, and she's great. And this was actually one of her pre-mades, and I saw it, and it was just like a light bulb moment for me. As soon as I saw the cover, I was like, I have to have that. I know what book that is. And she's done some other customized covers for me for a couple other books in the series that I'm working on, 2 novellas. So yeah, she's great. I love her. She's a phenomenal artist.
That's great. It's always important to have a team on your side, a team of people that you could trust and, understand
Yeah.
your vision. And especially when it comes to something important as the cover, it's great to know that you have, that collaboration in place, especially because you're doing a series too. So I'm sure
Right.
you have the style and consistent. It's always important.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. I'm really trying to stick to some branding on that, and so I want to make sure that the text and everything looks the same on every book, so you know what it is as soon as you look at it. Oh, that's a fairy tale.
Yeah, definitely. And also because, now you're hitting number one on new releases and teen, young adult fairy tales.
Hmm.
So, if you're getting to that level, you want people to recognize that brand of yours to know, okay, this
Exactly.
was a number one new release. Now I know the rest following are also in the same ballpark. So really important. What do you think your readers are connecting well with your approach to fairy tale retellings? Or is there a certain tactic that you've been using that you think stands out more than others might?
I really think that in today's climate, there's just a lot of need for hope and escapism. So one thing fairy tales always give us is that love and hope. And so that's really why I wanted to write them too, was I just really wanted to explore those themes and tropes. and I think people connect to those because it's a universal theme.
Mhm.
And the tropes they really really get. They, the enemies to lovers, the found family, those types of things are really what resonate with people, and I think that's why they connect with them so much. Especially this one, it seems to be, and I think people just really love the Beauty and the Beast trope too. It's all about beauty is not skin deep, right? It's all about the heart of somebody and someone, and so I think that's really why they connect with people, and really why I wanted to write them.
Definitely. And that's important to connect with people, right? To make them, relate to your characters and,
Mm,
get immersed in the world and so on and so forth. So amazing
yes.
stuff. And it is really cool, the unique twists that you put on Beauty and the Beast in this. The prince is cursed as a werewolf rather than a traditional beast. So,
Mhm.
how did you come up with the twists that you included?
Well, I thought about the themes that are within Beauty and the Beast, first of all, and I really wanted to keep some of those consistent with the retelling. Like he's cursed, that stays, and he's a recluse. That's definitely part of it. But I really wanted to do something different in that he's human by day, and his curse is ruled by the phases of the moon. So that's where I came up with the idea for, oh, he's a werewolf, he's a shifter, by night. But the twist on that is that there's, and I don't want to spoil it, but there is a reason why he did what he did, and became cursed, and it all ties back to the book that the heroine Bella ha- gets at the beginning of the book, and so I wanted to connect all of those threads and keep those themes throughout the book. And in the original fairy tale with the Disney version, there's the Enchanted Rose, right? Well, I didn't want to do that, but I wanted to have those sort of rose and thorn themes throughout the entire book. So that's all over. That's in his castle, on the book, and in his anything he wears. He's got a fabulous wardrobe. So I had a lot of fun coming up with that. But there is a ticking time bomb. Basically, it's rather than the enchanted rose drooping, it's an enchanted hourglass that ticks, every grain of sand ticks away in one more day of his life. So he knows he's running out of time, and he has to break the curse, or he's forever a werewolf. So that was the premise.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, really amazing that you did, change enough so that we, gain a new spin on it, but also you're holding true to the traditional tale,
Right.
which I think is a good mix for sure.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then that's what I wanted to do. I wanted it to be clear that this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's a sweet romance. It's kind of a slow burn romance, but it still has all of those recognizable themes.
Understood, understood. Well, transitioning a little bit into, more so of the writing process also. You've been writing a bunch of these books already. You have
Yeah.
six with more planned.
Yep.
How do you maintain creative momentum and avoid burnout? I mean, you mentioned that you kind of just dedicated all this time to knocking them out.
Mhm.
What strategies did you use to just keep yourself going?
That's a great question. And it is, burnout is a real thing, but these stories, they're all a connected world, so they can all be read as a standalone. And what's good about them is it's not a continuing story, really. It's a new story in a new realm. So it's fresh every time I come back to the page to start a new one. It's a different story, but it's in the same realm, so, or the same world. And so I really just try to keep that. I like to write a blurb before I start, so I kind of know, it's kind of my roadmap. It's a very loose roadmap. I never really stick to it, and I don't really plot. I'm trying to get better about plotting because I think that will help me write faster. But typically, I just kind of wing it, and I shouldn't, but it works for me. And so, trying to stay fresh, I think just having a new approach to a different story in the same world, it just kind of helps me set whenever I'm finished with one and I'm ready to move on to the next one. I just finished a Rapunzel retelling, so that's coming out at
Oh,
the end of the month.
well, very cool. Please tell me a little bit more about that one. When is the release date? When can we be looking forward to that one?
Yeah, so I'm planning to release that at the end of July, on July 25th. It's a novella, so it's a short, like, it's, I call it related material. It's not really part of the larger, the novels. She is locked in a tower with a hair that is full of starlight, and so I wish I had the blurb in front of me, but I don't. But she's stuck in this tower, but she's a lost princess. It's kind of very similar to, Tangled. She's a lost princess, but hero falls from the sky during a cosmic storm and comes and tells her, I know about the prophecy. You have to come back with me to your home world, which is called Starna, and he takes her back to there because she has to break the curse that the evil king has put upon their land. So it's a really short book, but it's very, fast paced, and that there's not a lot of breathing room. And I am planning a sequel for that. So, but yeah, that's called Once Upon a Silver Strand, and it'll be out at the end of July.
Well, amazing. That's a really cool take. And especially if, people already are loving Beauty and the Beast and the other one is, the next one coming. I mean, Tangled was a great one. So it's put enough of twists in there to do the same kind of thing. Now, if we want to stay up to date and hear about updates on this book and the next books, where is the best place people can find you?
If you would subscribe to my newsletter, you can definitely get a free book, which is Red Riding Hood. And then I send out my newsletter when I have a release. It's 3 to 4 times a month. So I try to do it every Wednesday. So you can keep up with me there. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me there at Michelle Miles Author. But I'm all over the socials. I have a website. It's michellemiles.net. And then if they're interested in buying direct from me, I have michellemilesbooks.com. So I know that's a lot of info thrown at you, but the best way to find me is just look me up on my website, michellemilesbooks.net, and you can get connected with my sign up for my newsletter, find all my books. There's a blog, and keep up with me there.
Awesome. Well, we're going to put the links to all of that in the description box of the podcast today, so we can go ahead and click on over when we're finished chatting. But, all of that aside, I'm sure, people can go ahead and get in touch and learn a little bit more there.
Yeah.
But more so, when you're writing all these books, it must be really hard to keep track of everything, right? Because you're thinking about the traditional tale, and then you also have the timeline of your own story. I'm sure there's a lot of planning that's involved. I'm wondering if you have a certain process you'd like to share with us.
Yeah, there is a lot of planning. I have a story Bible. I'm old school. Like, I know there's tons of tools out there that people use, like Plotter and Scrivener and all that, but that doesn't work for me because my brain doesn't work that way. So I have a Word doc, a running Word doc that I just keep, where I list every book that I want to write or that I've already written, with the blurbs and kind of some high level, the themes, the tropes, who the hero is, who the heroine is, the antagonist, the location. I have a map that I look at, a fantasy map that I look at frequently to sort of ground me in which realm am I writing about today, and so I keep track of all of that in that Word doc, and it's pretty lengthy by now. I have quite a few books planned.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's a good tip that everyone should really kind of keep in mind when they're writing their own books, to that planning
Right.
aspect of it. So, kind of transitioning on, you have a bunch more planned. What else is on the horizon for you? I understand you do have your own podcast as well, the Miles Beyond the Page. So is there certain things that you learned from that podcast that you've implemented in your own writing, perhaps?
I talk to a lot of indie authors, and there's a lot of resonance with that. It just makes me feel not so alone in doing this. But I think just learning from other authors and what their process is and how they do things is really invaluable. And if you're a writer trying to make it, definitely listen to either other podcasts, talk to writers, kind of find out what their process is, and really learn what works for you. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've had, is what works for one person will not necessarily work for you. So that's really what I've learned from them. And I've talked to lots of different authors too. I've talked to traditionally published authors. I've talked to New York Times bestsellers. I've talked to indie authors just getting started. So it's really a fun thing to talk to them and sort of see the different levels of writers and how they approach their own books. it's fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, I feel the same way. I get to learn about new tips and tricks from other authors all the time when they pop up onto the podcast. So I'm listening
Yeah.
to you a little bit, Michelle. I understand completely. Like, cool. But you've also taken it beyond that. You have your own Shopify store also. Is that
I
right?
do. I do. I just launched that in April. I'm still trying to, figure everything out and exactly what I want to sell. But all of my ebooks, everything I have an audiobook that I can sell wide is there. My paperbacks are there, and I'm trying to kind of think outside the box. I have some merch that you can go grab, t-shirts and just some fun t-shirts with some fun sayings on them. So I'm really trying to lean into the direct sales because I feel like that's kind of the next wave of big things for indie authors. I know lots of them are doing it and doing it quite successfully. So I'm just really in the infant stages of that. I'm learning and trying to figure out, how to sell it, what to sell, how to get people excited about it. But this release with Enchanted Castle was my first book that I had up there that I was able to sell direct, and it did pretty well. I'd like for it to do better, of course, because that's really kind of we're able to keep more of our royalties by selling direct, and that's really one of the reasons why I wanted to do it. But I'm also available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of the other places.
Good. Yeah, it's always good to spread your reach, right? To get your name
Yes.
there and from wherever it's most convenient for the audience to
Yeah.
and get in, and to purchase, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if you happen to have any other writing tips for the authors out there today. We learned a bunch from you, but there's got to be more. What's a secret that you might have that you want to share with the audience today?
I think if you really want to do this for a living, you really have to be committed to that craft, and learn your writing voice. One of the mistakes that I made was, I mean, I said I wanted to write fantasy, but what does that look like? I mean, what type of fantasy? There's so many subgenres now. I think when you pick a genre, I also write romance, so fantasy romance, like romantasy, is huge right now. But I think the key to that is just find what you love, write it well, nail it, and then really lean into it. Readers today, especially romance readers, are really wanting series, and if you're going to write romance, I think you really need to think about that. What is a series that can be sustainable for 4 or 5 books, or more. It just depends on what series you want to write, and read widely. Read not only the genre you want to write, but definitely read everything from everybody, from best-selling authors to indie authors that are probably not hitting that best-selling list yet, but are really good writers. I've read so many books by indie authors that are so good that may not be hitting those lists, but they definitely deserve to because they're just really well written. So if you're going to go the indie route, definitely know the business. If you're going to go the traditional route, know how to submit to agents and editors and follow those guidelines to a T. And then really don't try to chase trends. I think don't chase trends. I mean, a lot of people will say write to market, but if you're not, familiar with the market, it could be detrimental to your career. I really believe in writing what you love. And if that happens to be the hot trend, go for it. But I've never been a trend writer either. So
Yeah, understood. It's always good to branch off of it, maybe get a little bit of the, what's hot, but also more so
Mhm.
things that last, things that are evergreen, ones that readers are always
Right.
to. I understand
For
that.
sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, yeah, I mean, Michelle, this has been a really inspiring conversation. I think it's really cool what you're doing here, taking real known stories, giving your own little spin to it. It's kind of like you have your own little magic, right? You're putting it
Yeah.
in telling, and also, the way you're sharing it with the world. So, really amazing stuff. I really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. That was a lot of fun. I love talking about my fairy tales.
Yeah, of course. And you've got a ton more coming out.
I
So it's really
do.
you're doing, just launching them out one after the other, which is an amazing way to keep your audience hooked, which is
Yeah.
another huge factor. I mean, perhaps would you mind just sharing a little bit more about that before we head off today? What does it take to really capture your audience and keep them hooked from book to book to book?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know that I've captured that magic yet, but I'm trying. I think just being consistent, really having consistent releases, writing consistently, keeping them engaged. I really try to keep engaged with my newsletter audience, and then just planning, just what's the next thing. So right now I'm working on a Edgar Allan Poe's retelling of The Raven, which is going to be a gothic romance. It's not really a fairy tale, but it's something that kind of spoke to me. So I think just keeping it fresh and new and different, and being engaged with your readers, either through your newsletter list or on socials.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're doing a great job of that, right? Like with all the links that you mentioned before, amazing ways for people to get in touch.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, to everybody listening today, again, go ahead and check out the links in the description box of this podcast today. There's a lot to be learned from Michelle and a lot of amazing content to immerse yourself with. Michelle is writing her own success story at one enchanted page at a time. So, if today's conversation did spark something with you, whether it's a desire to try fairy tale retellings or to launch your own sales platform or simply write with more intentional magic, remember that every author did start with a single story and have the courage to so keep writing, keep dreaming, keep pursuing the boundaries of what's possible in your own creative kingdom. Until next time, everybody.
This is Danielle Hutchinson reminding you that somewhere, someone needs the book that only you can write. Visit authorsonmission.com to start your legacy. Until next time, keep leading, keep inspiring, and keep thinking in chapters. Have a great day.